Every time you sell a Fire Stick that's jailbroke, it's a felony.
Jailbroke and illegal, that doesn't match. Those two different things.
Investigation's not over. It's just beginning.
Officers came, secret microphones, secret cameras.
Luis Vasquez, he also jailbreaks his own Fire Sticks.
If somebody has so much power that they can shut down the media from asking questions, I have no shot. So in 2020, 3 years after living in Lakeland, I opened up a booth at a flea market. People would come up to the booth where I was at and say, hey, you know how to fix Fire Sticks? You know, the lady that was here before, she taught me how to do it, or I bought it from her. Fire Sticks, Fire Sticks, Fire Sticks, right? So I've always known about Fire Sticks.
What is a Fire Stick?
So a Fire Stick specifically is an Amazon Fire TV device. It's probably 6 inches long. You plug it into your TV, and then you're able to stream. Versus using a smart TV, which doesn't have as much computing power in the smart TV. A Fire Stick gives you that power. It's got more RAM, more speed. So people have been using them since 2016. That's when the first Fire Stick came out. Along with that, around 2016, when the first one came out, people began what's called jailbreaking the Fire Stick. And really, all that means is turning on a setting in the settings of the Fire Stick and allowing for unknown sources, allowing you to download things that are not available on the Amazon store.
So I can download it for free. I don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, so you can stream it for free, because that's another thing with the Fire Sticks is that you're not downloading anything. So if you
But you're able to tie into the streaming network.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you're able to tie into the streaming network. If you are downloading movies and things like this, now you're crossing the line into copyright infringement and the whole FBI warning that you see at the beginning of the movies. You know, punishable by 5 years. Blah, 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 blah. That's downloading.
Okay.
But for me, as far as I was concerned, I didn't have to do that. There was apps that gave you free stuff, free movies, free local TV that were not illegal. Most of them were on the Amazon store. I didn't even have to sideload them.
Where do you get a Fire Stick, and like, what are you paying for them?
So I'd get them directly on Amazon or Best Buy or Target.
Same thing anybody else could do.
Same thing anybody else can do. I'd get it. So with Amazon and these places, you can only get 3 a day. You can only get 3 Fire Sticks a day, and I'm guessing they have that limited, so people who are side loading and reselling them can't sell 10 a day or something, you know, which is stupid. You just go to Best Buy, they get another 3, Target, get another 3.
Right. Well, they have to look like they're trying to limit it.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So I switch over to selling the Fire Sticks. People start coming immediately. And I would ask people, like, what do you want to put on there? Like local news, which is a majority of people want it. This is, by the way, this flea market is International Market World in Auburndale, Florida. So this is it's the biggest flea market in Polk County. But it's, you know, it's mainly older people, not a jam-packed place, right? So most people that would come up and want a Fire Stick, what they wanted to do was reduce their cable bill or cut the cord completely. And then be able to still see their local channels, see what's going on in the news, and that maybe sports. So they come to me and they say, hey, I want to see this. I want to see that. I want to see this. Okay, there's an app for that.
Right.
You know, there's an app for that. So just bring me your Fire Stick, or I have these that are ready to go. I'd sell Fire Sticks for maybe $25 or $30 more than the listed price. So when I buy them on Amazon and these other places, I buy Amazon 4K sticks. So they were the best ones out, the fastest ones out. I think they were $50 at the time. And I charge $80 for it. So it was like a $30 markup for doing the service. So I would remove a lot of the stuff that's in the Fire Stick already that slows it down, just stuff that Amazon puts in there, and then add whatever it is that they would customize it. You tell me what you want. You can hang out and watch me do it. There's no hiding. This is not a secret.
Yeah, it's just a service.
It's just a service. You know, I'm providing. So you can sit here and watch people hang out with me as I'm doing it. And by the way, that later that my charge was not just doing this and reselling it, but showing other people how to do it so they could do it themselves and not have to come to me and pay me $20 or whatever it is. So that was part of that later. It only took 2 weeks, Matt. So 2 weeks from October 1st, 2020 was when the first undercover officers came to the flea market in full undercover, secret microphones, secret cameras, and the whole thing. So I don't know if it had anything to do with me. I was brand new at the flea market. Other people had been there for years. So 2 weeks after I began doing this is when everything starts. I wasn't aware of it. didn't come to light until late December 2020. So it was 3 months that they were investigating us. When the bust happened, the sheriff of Polk County, his name is Grady Judd.
Right.
He's also known as America's Sheriff.
Right.
Very popular dude. Liked in the community, does good stuff. And I love him.
Right.
Before this.
With the exception of this.
This is the exception. I loved him before this. So when the whole bust went down, the sheriff of Polk County put out a story that he went on the news. It was a whole press conference, 15 minutes long. Our pictures. How this guy does his press conferences is he'll do a raid or they'll do a bust. His team will do a bust. And let's say they get 3 guys. They got 3 pictures ready to go.
Right.
So they get their press card. Hey, here's Luis Vasquez. This guy right here was selling fire sticks. And by the way, he was arrested 15 years ago for stealing candy from a store.
Right.
He just starts going in on you. Right. So during that press conference, one of his reasoning as to how this whole thing happened is a concerned citizen went to the sheriff's office in October of 2020 and said, his words, they come in there and say, hey, sheriff, something's got to be wrong at the flea market. So they answer him, well, like what? Well, they're selling free TV boxes over there, and that just doesn't seem right. And that's all it took for the investigation to start. So going back to these conversations I had at the flea market, I remember a couple of two particularly very strange conversations. One of them, a guy comes up to my booth and he's, hey, you got those jailbroken fire sticks? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, they're jailbroken, but that's just a term. I would always tell people this. Like, it's just a term. Jailbroken is just something that's really misused because the Amazon Fire Stick is not locked. You can't jailbreak something
you're
that's
not
not
hacking
locked.
into it or breaking into it, or you're just reprogramming it, which anybody could do.
Which anybody can do. Yeah, you're not hacking into anything. You're not changing code. You're not going through the back door. You're turning on a setting to allow, apps to sideload apps. So this guy comes up to the booth and he's like, yeah, you got those jailbroken at? I was like, yeah, well, I mean, they're not jailbroken, but sure. The reason they're called jailbroken is because I do this with it. I do that. Like, what would you like on yours if you want one? He's like, oh, no, I just wanted to see if they were jailbroken. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Okay, that's weird. Right.
That's it. Right. And then he's like, that's it. Before he leaves, he goes, but are they illegal? And then I go, what do you mean illegal? Like, jailbroken, illegal, that doesn't match. Those 2 different things. He goes, well, yeah, just asking. And he leaves. So he wasn't a customer. He was there just to talk or whatever. And then another conversation I had shortly after that was a lady that came by. And she kind of asked it was almost the same conversation. Hey, I like the term jailbroken and this. And they were really pushing that term, jailbroken. And, ooh, are they legal? Ooh, that sounds, interesting. So later on, it was my opinion was that I think those were possibly tactics to get me to say certain things, even though jailbroken is not illegal. The word it's just a word.
That was the whole investigation. No. People?
No, there was more.
Because people had to buy, right? They had to buy stuff.
They had to buy. So the first buy in this whole buy and bust operation was in early October, 2 weeks after I began selling the fire sticks. So they come by, buy a fire stick, whatever, take off. In order to get probable cause for search and arrest warrant, they would have to take it somewhere to see if it's an actual illegal item. So in my discovery, which I have, I fought the case to a certain extent. It's 50 pages. My discovery is 50 pages. So in there, you see where they took the fire stick back the first time to a lab, and they check to see if it's illegal. And they see that, turn it on, Fox News. Yep, it's illegal. Like in my discovery, it says Fox News was on there. So you can access the world because that's on there. So maybe they checked other things, but that's just what they put in my paperwork. So they confirmed that, okay, yep, you can see a cable channel on here. And the investigation continued. There was a second buy the next month and a third buy after that. So they did 3 buys of this hot product. And so on December of 2020, I came into my booth on December 19th, 2020. As a flea market vendor, you have to set up pretty early in the morning. So you're there at 7 in the morning, setting up, getting ready, because the first customers are going to be showing up at 8. Old people come by and they walk around and whatever. So I'm setting up my booth that morning, December 19th, 2020. A guy comes by, first person there. It's the first customer. He comes up to my booth. He goes, "Hey, do you still have those jailbroken Fire Sticks?" And I was like, "No, I don't." And I actually didn't. I had what's called Me Sticks, a different device. But I was like, "But these are the same thing. You can still see your movies, your TVs, this kind of thing." So he goes, "Can you give me a second? I just got to make a phone call." So he goes by.
Grady, listen.
Not bad. Just saying. Yeah, that was weird. So he makes this phone call. As he leaves to go make this phone call, a regular lady comes by. "Hey, can you fix my device?" I plug in her device and begin removing all the crap that's in there that was slowing it down. As I'm doing this, here come 6 or 7 dudes, full undercover. "Hey, Luis Vasquez, we got a search warrant for your booth." And I'm just shocked. I went deaf. I couldn't hear what was being said. Just shocked. Like, these cops are coming in here and screaming my name, particularly, that saying that they have a search warrant. So I respond after my hearing comes back, after a couple of seconds, and say, "Okay, what is this about?" They're like, "Well, you need to step behind. You need to step away from the booth. Are you gonna be cool? You gonna be cool, man?" That whole thing. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm cool. I get it." Okay. I step away from the booth. Here comes a photographer with a professional Canon, whatever, and he's taking pictures of the signs. He's taking pictures of all my crappy table and my rotten wood that we get as vendors of a flea market. And so right there, when I saw that guy with the Canon camera, I'm like, okay, this is something different.
Right.
This is beyond the pale. So the head guy asked me, he goes, "Hey, you need to talk to me." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, let's go to the parking lot." So I go to the parking lot with him. I go to the parking lot with him. We sit down in his pickup truck. He opens the glove compartment. Boom. "Hey, grab that." I grab it, stack of paper. He's like, "Read that." And it says Florida state statutes, robbery, theft, and related crimes. So I go, "What says is robbery? You're charging me with Fire Sticks? So what, robbery has nothing to do with this?" And he goes, "No, what you're doing does have to do with it, blah, blah, blah." And he begins asking me, like, "How did you learn how to do this? How did you learn how to jailbreak a Fire Stick?" I'm just shocked still. So I'm like, I don't understand the question. You're talking about going in the settings? He's like, "No, yeah, well, how'd you do this? Like, how did you learn how to do this?" I told him, "Well, YouTube. YouTube it, Google it, read about it." He goes, "Well, how did you learn how to put a cable channel on there, or a movie on there, or Netflix, or YouTube?" And I go, it's not illegal. I mean, I just go on YouTube and learn how to do it. Nothing about this is illegal. And I start the process of explaining jailbroken Fire Sticks are not illegal. This is not an illegal item.
Right.
This is a side-loaded item. The Amazon Fire Stick is made unlocked. You can't, you can't go any further than that. So he goes, "Oh, well, what you're doing was blah, 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 this, and, this is what you're getting charged with." So I asked him, "What sort of charges are?" He's like, "Felony 3, 5 years in prison if you get convicted." So I end the conversation there. They come and take me to jail. But how
they cuff you the whole thing?
They cuffed me the whole thing and took me to Polk County Jail. So how I knew something was strange, there was a lot of weird things going on. But when I go, the transport cop comes to get me, right? And take me from the flea market, take me to jail. I see him, I turn around. I've been, unfortunately, cuffed a couple of times in my 20s. I do the thing, and he's like, "No, man, it's cool. I do it from the front." And I'm, okay. He puts on the cuffs from the front. I've never seen this before. Cool. I get put in the car. And this whole situation, it wasn't just me. There was 3 other people who got raided and swept up and were being investigated and were recorded, the whole thing. These were elderly people.
In the same flea market?
In the same flea market.
Okay.
Same flea market. The oldest guy was 88. The person after that was a lady in her 70s, I think late 70s, and there was another lady in her late 60s.
Couple of gangsters.
A bunch of gangsters walking up in Polk County Jail. So they roped up all these people. So I'm being put in the police car next to me, the 88-year-old guy. They bring him in, sit him next to me. And that's when I first realized that, wait a minute, this was a coordinated raid where you hit multiple spots at once. Like, it's how they do in drugs, right? They know you got 2 stash spots. They're going to hit them both at the same time, so you can't react. So that's when I realized, okay, this is not just about me. You know, it's just multiple people. They take us to jail. We get to jail. They couldn't get it. They couldn't get us booked in the jail because the chargers were not even available. So it's a lot of weird things that were going on. As I'm in the car and they're waiting for the chargers to come available, my cop that was driving tells the other cop that had 2 other people in the car, he goes, man, it's a sad day to be a cop. And they were talking about this whole thing. We got elderly people back here from the flea market, vendors. So another strange thing I've never heard from law enforcement. You know, I never thought they'd say that in front of people who are in handcuffs behind them.
Right.
So they get us booked into the jail. I'm with the old folks. I unfortunately have been to jail before back in the day in my 20s. So I knew the process. It wasn't going to be a surprise. But I'm telling these older folks, hey, listen, it's going to be okay, guys. You're going to get bonded out. Your family will pay. You know, I'm sure it's going to be you'll be able to pay and get out of jail. So we get booked in. I tell the booking people, just like you said earlier, I'm like, hey, you guys got the worst of the worst in here tonight. And then they didn't find that funny, which was cool. But I was pissed. I was really mad when we're getting booked in with these older folks, you know. So anyways, I ended up getting my wife, post my bond, and the next morning I'm released.
He once conned Bank of America out of $250,000 using nothing but a fake ID and his charm. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't typically commit crime, but when I do, it's bank fraud. Stay greedy, my friends.
Support the channel. Join Matthew Cox's Patreon.
I'm released on a Sunday morning. I had to call out of work for that Monday because I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So I call out of work. I'm at home on Monday morning. The police took my cell phone as part of the raid. They weren't supposed to take it, but they took it, you know, on accident. They take the cell phone. So I have no cell phone. I'm using my wife's cell phone in the backyard, looking for lawyers in Polk County. Hey, tech crime, who does internet crime, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for some answers. A text comes in to the phone, and it's somebody with my name saying, Lewis, in all caps. Is that you? What's going on? And I'm looking, it's like, this is my wife's phone. Who the hell could be texting for me?
Right.
And it turns out it was one of my coworkers. And they're like, hey, they sent me a link after that text. They're like, you're on TV.
Right.
So,
and that's the Grady Judd.
That's the first thing that happened, the first press conference. There was only one, but then it also went to news, and then the news began covering it. It went to radio, went to TikTok, it went to Facebook.
Do you have it?
The Polk County Sheriff's Office launching an investigation into vendors here at the International Market World Flea Market. After getting a tip, people were selling illegal fire sticks. But if you're just here shopping on the weekend, how do you know what you're buying is legit? Well, the sheriff says if the higher price tag doesn't tip you off, the word jailbroken should.
Free movies, free TV, free sports, free anything.
Secret camera recordings.
True, it probably is. And in this case, it's also a crime. Detectives at the Polk County.
Oh my God, look at the old look.
Me and my old folks.
Broken fire sticks to undercover deputies at the International Market World Flea Market over the weekend. Lorinda Marlene Holm, Bong Woo Ro, Luis Gabriel Vasquez, and Grace Yarbrough used signs like this to lure people who may have thought they were paying too much for cable.
Even if you buy a legal fire stick and go online and figure out how to jailbreak it, the first time you download content, you're committing a crime.
This video taken by detectives shows their encounter with vendors trying to make a sale.
It's got all the premium channels, all the HBO, Showtime, ESPN, NFL ticket, anything you think of.
Detectives seizing as many as 36 jailbroken fire sticks in one day.
You sell a lot of these things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're very popular.
But there's a reason it's illegal, and it affects all of us.
The businesses have got to make their profit margins. So they're going to charge enough to cover this shrinkage or this loss. So at the end of the day, we all pay for the few people that steal.
The four now facing
So get your torches and go to our houses because we're the reason that Spectrum and Dish Network is charging $350 a month.
If you're not selling jailbroken Fire Sticks, you could be charged with a misdemeanor for
using one. So whoever's got a Fire Stick at home, throw it.
So what? So they text you and said this is you. You're on.
You're on the news, right? Or you're on the press conference, and people around here know, right? In Florida, you're not too far from Polk County.
Yeah.
That the press conferences are a thing.
Right.
They happen. And if you're on it, you're fucked because you're going to get dragged.
Right.
And it's going to be long. So I get the text message, hey, you're on. They send me the thumbnail. I see. I know exactly what it looks, what Grady Judd's things looks like. I'm like, it's over, right? Like my whole life is going to change after this. So the ground, I swear the ground started spinning, the whole thing, like dizzy thing, like you're about to have a panic attack or whatever. So I go back inside the house and make sure all the TVs were off, all the internet. My wife wasn't on the computer. I was just expecting to walk in and see her on the computer with the press conference playing, just frozen.
Right.
And thank God he wasn't watching it, hadn't been out. It hadn't got to our house yet. And from there, it was like, okay, so what am I going to do now? Because it doesn't matter if you get a lawyer. This is the problem with the press conference thing. It doesn't matter what you do after that. You're screwed, right? So the next morning, I wake up, I go to work as normal. I still don't have a cell phone because they took my cell phone. Good thing they actually did take my cell phone because, of course, a lot of texts came in and calls. Hey, this is happening now. This is happening. I get to work. I don't even get out of the door. I pull up to my job, park. I don't even get out of the door before one of my guys, truck drivers. I used to work with truck drivers. They came up, one guy comes up to my door, and he's ready to open my door for me. And I'm like, damn, this one dude here is like known as the guy that spreads the rumors.
Right.
So as soon as I saw that he knows, it was over. I get out of the door. He's like, hey, Lou, man, it's going to be okay. I saw what happened and this kind of thing.
Here's that $20 I owe you just in case I don't see you on Friday.
Yeah. He was like, oh, man, I feel so bad, but damn, this is good news. It's juicy. He didn't say the juicy part, right. But this is what I'm thinking. So as soon as he knew, I knew it was over then. I passed, I Sam, hey, Sam, it's cool. It was a mistake. I'm going to take care of it. Don't worry about it. I don't even want to talk about it. We're good. So I passed him getting into the door where my job is. There's like 3 or 4 other guys right there. And they're like, hey, man, you all right? They knew. And I go in, oh, yeah, I'm good. Clock in as normal, like nothing's changed or whatever. I clock in. I go to sit down at the desk where I work, and then I hear my manager, like this manager that you never see. He's remote, so he shows up. He always tells me before he shows up. This time he showed up. He was there. He said, hey, Louis, you got a second? Can we talk? So I'm like, I tell him I'm nervous to talk to you because I didn't know you were coming. But okay, we went in the office and talked. Right away, he takes his cell phone. He's like, bro, what the hell is this?
Right.
He's like, I got a call from corporate. And mind you, I had just got arrested like less than 48 hours before that. Corporate is in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a call from corporate that you need to go right down. You need to talk to your guy. So he's like, what is this? I explained to him, listen, man, this was a mistake. On their end, this raid was, I don't even know what to say. I didn't have my discovery yet. But I'm like, this just doesn't make sense. Nobody's ever been arrested for this, man. Clay is his name. I was like, Clay, nobody's ever been arrested for this. This doesn't make sense. He's like, yeah, man, but it got to corporate. It's out of my hands. I got to suspend you. So he tells me that, and I say, okay, well, I mean, I know I'm not coming back from the suspension. It's not, I'm going to suspend you. It's you're terminated.
Right.
But I'm just going to tell you now you're suspended and it's not his fault. It was corporate's call. So as we're talking, he gets a phone call. He steps out of the room. Hey, I'll be right back. He comes in maybe 30 seconds after he stepped out. He's like, man, I don't know who you were praying or what you were doing, but it worked. Corporate has held off on the suspension. You must have a fan up there or whatever, he tells me. So somebody up there in New Hampshire said, whoa. Like, something's not right. So, but he does tell me, hey, but you're going to be under investigation here at work. We're going to check your laptops. You're going to check you.
Right.
Etc.
You're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything. So what do you?
Right. So I was like, well, and he also, a really great thing he tells me, and I really appreciate it to this day. He's like, hey, I'm not telling you this as your manager. I'm telling you this like as a father would tell his son. Fight the case. If you're truly innocent, fight it. Doesn't matter if it takes all the money you have or if you have to get loans or you go into debt, fight the case. So, by the way, if Clay ever watches this, thank you, Clay. I appreciate that because that's what I did. So I left work and continued trying to live life. However, the next day's press conference, nothing to do with Amazon Fire Sticks, nothing to do with streaming. It was a sex thing, right? And that's what they're known for. Polk County, we busted 100 prostitutes and 10 Johns and whatever. And these are just people on the street doing drugs, but you know, they get a press conference out of it. So this press conference, nothing to do with me. I'm at home. I get another text and it's, hey, you're on the press conference again. So I begin watching it, and at the end of the press conference, they have a question and answer thing every time. Question and answers start. The first media person stands up. It's a lady from a local news station, and she goes, hey, we've been getting calls all day to our station and emails saying that jailbroken fire sticks are not illegal. And then the sheriff responds.
Right.
And he's like, well, of course they're illegal. Just here's a clue. Jailbroken. Get it? You know, that's how he breaks it down.
Right.
That's Polk County vernacular.
Right.
It's jail, broken, arrest, jail.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's how it goes.
So that's part of the reason they were pushing the whole jailbroken from the very beginning.
They pushed jailbroken more than any hackers ever pushed jailbroken since jailbroken began, you know, in 1981 or whatever.
So if you get it, so they don't look like a prostitution, or they don't call it prostitution anymore. Now it's like human trafficking.
Human trafficking,
like,
right?
Everything is, they throw terrorist in front of anything they can throw it in front of. So it sounds twice as bad. You can get twice as much time.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Just like human trafficking.
He's a domestic terrorist.
Right. Exactly.
What did I do? I said I have a sign that says "fuck the government." I don't understand. What? You have to go to jail.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. That's what that was. It's that same human trafficking, slavery, you know, this thing like get you like, hey, this guy is the worst that there is.
Right.
Jailbroken. He's the reason you're paying $350 a month to Spectrum and Dish Network.
Right, because if all fraud was eliminated, Spectrum would immediately drop it down to $12.
Exactly, because they're in it to help us.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
so, and they,
all the corporations are looking out for the people.
Yes, they are. And they're also, corporations are also people too. So it's a whole thing.
It's people helping people.
Facts. So I get this text. I watch the thing. So I've never had a panic attack before.
All right.
Before this day. And I watched this thing and I'm thinking, I don't know what to think, because he shut down the media. Like the lady that got up and asked this question, it was a legit question. She was not lying. They were calling her station. And he shuts her down. You know, he goes on jailbroken saying this whole thing. And then he embarrasses her, the media person, there to all the other media people. And you can tell she was embarrassed because her answer was like, oh, okay. And she sat down. And the other people started laughing around her. So after I saw that, right away, my teeth start shattering. I start like doing this thing that I've never experienced. I'm like, the hell, and I have hypothermia? Like, this is weird. And I actually end up having a panic attack, first time ever. And I go outside and breathing, doing Navy SEAL techniques, breathe in, breathe out, 5-second hold, the whole thing. And it worked. But I realized the reason I had that panic attack is because if somebody has so much power that they can shut down the media from asking questions, I have no shot. I have no chance of getting a fair trial. No chance of having a jury of my peers or whatever. The jury's already poisoned.
Right.
So that right there told me, you know, there's no, I got problems. So we go from there. The news coverage started. It went to local news, and the news were parroting. I mean, almost word for word. You know, you saw it on that that thing. You know,
Grady Judd told him to say what the. It's like the U.S. attorney will come out with. U.S. attorneys will come out with a press release, and they put it out, and then the newspapers essentially barely even rewrite what the U.S. attorney said, and then they put it in the newspaper, and then it goes from this newspaper to this news, and then it's the Associated Press. Next thing you know, it's in the Tampa Tribune and this and that. It's like he wrote a press release. You guys just rewrote it, so it makes it look like you did the reporting, but you didn't do the reporting at all. You know, you might have made one phone call, but that's it. You're just basically they're just putting out whatever they want, and everybody just follows suit.
Right.
It's cheaper that way.
It is cheaper. It's cheaper that way. And I'll tell you what, Grady Judd, I respect Grady Judd to this day. I live in Polk County to this day, right? And before this, I love Grady Judd. I mean, because the guy, he does things. going after child predators, going after, you know, he does a lot of stuff looking out for kids. And we have 2 little kids at home. My wife and I have 2 boys at home. So we appreciate that. And especially when he said, I don't know if you remember this, but it was during the hurricanes. No, I'm sorry. It was during recent riots that were going on. And he does a press conference for that. He's like, hey, if you come to Polk County rioting and breaking windows and all that, my residents have guns. Right. I encourage them to hold guns, load your guns, and they're going to use the guns.
Right.
So they'll come over here messing around and breaking shit, right? We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right? We live there. We love that kind of stuff. My issue was with this particular case.
Right.
And what came out later, because there's more that came out. Anyway, the news coverage starts. I just continue trying to live, go to work, and look for a lawyer. Did you
get a lawyer? I was going to say, okay.
Yeah, I ended up getting a lawyer. Found a lawyer that deals with somewhat tech stuff. Even then, it was.
Yeah, that's tough. That's
so
tough.
hard to find, especially in Polk County. Because I was looking at lawyers in Orlando, Tampa, nearby large towns. There's a little issue with that, though, is that Polk County sometimes beefs with these cities.
Right.
So that when they'll have a press conference, they'll say, well, in Orlando, they let all this stuff go. In Tampa, you know, so there's an ongoing thing that the sheriff's office has with these outside cities. So I kept it in Polk County, found the best person I could find. This person was a former prosecutor and this whole thing, and they've been in Polk County a while. So I call a lawyer. I get not the person I'm looking for who is the picture or the name. I get somebody that just, you know, kind of started there. But the way I saw it, I was like, okay, they just left the prosecutor's office in Polk County. They should have, you know, friends there. They can talk and find out what the hell's going on. So I get this lawyer. So at the first conversation, she's like, I say, ma'am, I don't know if you've ever seen this before. Like, what kind of history, what have you had that's similar to this, and how did it work out? And she's like, well, I've never seen this before for Fire Sticks, but I've had this. I had a guy who was selling fake contacts, etc., blah, blah, blah. Nothing to do with streaming or tech. So, but she goes, but what you need to know is that you're facing 5 years in prison. Have you ever been arrested? Yes, I've been arrested back in the day. Yes, I had a couple misdemeanor convictions. Well, that's going to play a factor.
Misdemeanor convictions is going to play a factor?
Yeah, that's what she told me.
Okay.
It's going to play a factor. And she's giving me the scare thing, right?
Right.
I'm already scared. So okay. So I said, so how would we approach this? Like, how would you speak to your friends over there? And she goes, well, I mean, we humanize you to the judge. I'm just thinking, like,
that sounds like throwing me on the mercy of the court for something I haven't really done.
Right. And explaining a law that the law they charged me with is, and let me get into that. The law they charged me with is a Florida law.
Okay.
This is only ever federal. This is the first time a state has used a law that they have to make it fit whatever. The law is called intercepting communications from a provider, right? So essentially, they're saying that the Fire Stick device can hack into Spectrum or Dish or these other cable providers and get the full list of, you know, things, all the channels. You get the what's the thing that goes up and down, the scrolling thing. You get everything, right?
Yeah, the listings or whatever.
Yeah, the listings, and it says what time things are coming on. Like exactly the same thing you get if you pay these providers. That's what you get from this device that you're selling. So that charge is a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor. However, if you are selling these devices, like he says in the conference, if you're selling these devices for commercial gain, and you're also doing it with the knowledge of that you're defrauding a cable company. So let's say it's Dish Network. Let's say I'm at my booth. Hey, somebody comes up. Yeah, I want some Dish Network channels. Okay, cool. Here, just do this. You're going to hack directly into Dish, and we're going to get Dish. Like, we're doing it to defraud Dish Network. You have to be in those parameters to break this law. And then it becomes a felony, from misdemeanor to felony. So they're saying that the Fire Stick devices acted in this way, which is impossible. They do have devices that people use that they're sold sometimes at flea markets or maybe other places that do log into Dish, and they're called like passkeys. They get you these passkeys, you put it on your box that you buy, and it directly hacks into the thing. Now you're, committing a misdemeanor or whatever. Anyways, this law hadn't been used. I don't know how long. I don't think it's ever been used because I wrote a book about this whole ordeal. I've been researching everything there is about this law, and I have not found one person that's ever been arrested for it. So I get hit with this charge. get the lawyer's starting the case or whatever, and just I continued going from there.
Okay. I mean, does she understand that you're going to trial, or is she trying to get you to just like, hey, just take a plea? If I can get this down to a misdemeanor, take a plea, or can I can get you probation, take a plea, you know, because it doesn't sound like she's got a great strategy so far of let's just humanize you. That doesn't seem like a strategy to me.
Right. So
hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy. So it seemed right away, it was like, okay, we're going to try to plea deal or whatever. I told her, not on the very first call, I wanted to get somebody on the case. But on the second call we had maybe 2 weeks later, we had the same kind of, hey, give me all the charges you've been arrested with before, or everything you've been convicted with before, so I can see how it would play a factor, blah, blah, blah. And then I tell her at the end, hey, I want to take this to trial. Like, I don't have the money to take it to trial because it's another, I paid $25,000, maybe $3,000 for the lawyer.
Right.
And then it costs another $3,000 or $4,000 to start trial. I had to borrow the first money, and I was already in debt borrowing that money to get the lawyer. But I told her, hey, I'll find a way, but I want to go to trial because I'm researching myself. I cannot find anywhere where this has happened before. This is not correct. I didn't have my discovery evidence yet. Had I had it, it would have been more information for me. So she goes, all right, yeah, if you're sure, then I'll keep doing the thing, whatever. Another maybe month passed after that. That's we decided, hey, we're going to go to trial. And it didn't seem like she was going to get all the information because it's just hard to find. It's hard to find anywhere where this has happened. It's really federal law. So if you're making copies of something, right? If you're slinging DVDs on US 27 in Davenport, Florida, to people at 7-Eleven,
it's pretty obvious. Yeah,
it's obvious.
It's obvious that this is the movie such and such, and you've downloaded and copied it onto a CD, and so it's obvious I've stole this. You're just giving people access to something.
Well, yeah, it's obvious you stole it, and you have a downloaded copy, and that's federal copyright law.
Right.
So the feds have to come after you, these people on the street selling CDs or whatever, to sue you, to get you sued civilly by the companies or whatever, or to hit you with some sort of a charge, some sort of felony charge. Being that this is streaming and you're not holding any physical copies, and also we're not hacking into any systems, it's treated completely different, you know. So during this time, on that same note, 2 days after I get out of jail, I don't know if you remember this, but the COVID bill from 2020, it was late 2020, around Christmas, they passed the emergency COVID relief bill, and it was called the COVID-19 care package. They gave us some sort of like
$1,400 or $1,200, something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Something like that. They gave us a little thing. Within that pack, that was the biggest bill ever passed in history. It's 5,000 plus pages, and I write about this in the book. It's over 5,000 pages, biggest bill ever passed. In that COVID legislation, there was a bunch of other stuff thrown in there too that had nothing to do with COVID. One of them was like Horse Racing Integrity Act. Another one was like tax breaks for corporations, just random stuff, right? One thing that was in the middle of that package was called the Protecting Lawful Streaming Act, where it's the feds now, and this is currently the law now. Before 2020, if you were running entire servers, I'm talking about like the size of your house, servers, computers, apps, like giving you access to the world, pay-per-view fights, the UFC, like, you know, NFL ticket, NBA, everything. If you're running those things and you get busted, it's a misdemeanor. That's what it was before 2020. This COVID bill made that a felony now if you're like the top criminal doing this or whatever. So this thing gets passed.
But you were arrested prior.
I was arrested 2 days prior to it being passed. So I don't think I had anything.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was just weird that whole thing happened, because had I been arrested under that, it would have been a misdemeanor. And even if I got arrested on the next one, it would have been the same felony. So time goes on. The lawyer, things are not going good with the lawyer. I mean, she seems busy. She's got stuff going on. She got other clients. I'm calling. I'm getting the paralegal. And, you know, so it's not going that good. I'm doing my own research. The news, this coverage is kind of slowing down, but then it gets put on Facebook, and then it gets put on TikTok, and then it just keeps going. Like, it never really ends and gives you a break to figure out what you're going to do.
Did you ever get in touch with these other arch criminals, the old guy, the old people.
Oh,
Did you ever talk to them and say, let's pool our resources and get a real lawyer?
That's a really good question.
I mean, of course, they're all selling stuff at the flea market.
Yeah, were they all, were they doing the
the
same thing? Were they selling something similar?
They were selling essentially the same thing. Amazon Fire Sticks. I mean, they were selling some of the older sticks, maybe Fire Stick Lights, while I was doing Fire Stick 4Ks, but essentially the same.
So the 88-year-old guy, he went on YouTube and figured out how to reprogram. I mean, he must have been a genius. I mean, at 88, like, you know, that's pretty, like, he's the original hacker.
He's the original hacker.
He remembers when computers were abacuses, you know, the slide, you know what an abacus is? Oh my God. Do any of you know what an abacus is?
Abacus? No.
For God's sakes. It's a wooden device where you can count numbers with. It's like the Chinese used it. They used it. That was like, they always joked like, it was the original computer. All right.
Yeah, no.
My wit is wasted on you guys. Anyway.
But your point is right, spot on. Because during the press conference, the 88-year-old man, though, so he's like the OG, like you're saying, of the game. He's like George Hotz. George Hotz.
I'd blamed it on him.
Yeah.
He's running the whole thing.
Yeah, no, he's like the OG of this thing, right? Because George Hotz, I don't know if you heard of him, but he's the first guy to jailbreak anything, right? Okay. This was in early 2000s. He jailbroke an iPhone, and a device that's actually locked that you actually do have to jailbreak an iPhone. He's the first guy. So that's during the press conference. Judd was like, the 88-year-old guy. He's like, oh, this gentleman, he must have been really good with whatever he was doing because he was jailbreaking them and he was buying them from other places. He was moving. Judd's favorite character in this whole saga that I wrote about and lived through it is the elderly lady. She was like 77. She would sell candles. So her thing was she had a candle store. And then she also had fire sticks. As people are coming in to buy candles, they might buy a fire stick. She had her TV on and stuff like that. So he goes, and this lady, she's the most tech savvy of the group. Her name is blah, 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 and she'll not get you just candles and more, but you'll leave with a fire stick. And it's jailbroke. So she got it bad. She was the tech savvy of the group, blah, blah, blah. Me, when it came to my part, it was just like, this guy, he's got arrested for driving on a suspended license. He's got open warrants. Or I think he said warrants, but made it seem like it's open, like physical warrants now.
Right.
This is from 10 years ago. He lied to a law enforcement officer back in the day, blah, blah, blah. He sold his fire sticks for that much and this. And then the fourth lady, she sold custom cups. So you go get your coffee mug right there, get your name, Matt Cox, boom, 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 you're good. But then you might leave with a fire stick inside the cup. Right. And now you got access to...
they call them pushers.
The pushers. The pushers.
First one's free.
First one's free. First one's free. So he had a field day and he's pretty good at it, not gonna lie. So we're talking about the press conferences, right? We get our names out there, our stories, and our background. Here's the thing with press conferences, right? So police are allowed to do press conferences. I researched that too. They can talk about it. They can talk about what they found, what the investigation discovered, etc. But what they can't do is give prejudicial statements, which is basically just saying, this guy, and, just talking shit about you, essentially, which is what they do.
He's guilty of this. He's guilty. Like, you don't know that I'm guilty of anything. You just know that you came to my house and I had a lab,
Right. Well, are we American? Right. We're American, right? We have the presumption of innocence.
Right.
You have to prove in court that we're guilty.
Yeah, turns out I could have had that house rented to somebody. I haven't been in the house for 6 months, so I don't have a lab. He's got a lab. So
right.
Go ahead.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And with that whole thing, you can't go on a press conference and say, well, this guy's background was this, and he got in trouble for that, because now you're tainting the jury pool.
Right.
So I just wanted to mention that part where I feel, and I talk about it in the book too, is it's a violation, not just of mine. This press conference has been going on for a while for different things, but for sure for mine and those other three people.
Right.
Because this is not a sex thing. This is not a child thing. This is not an assault. It's not a crime. Even if you somebody, right, and anywhere, let's say Polk County, somebody gets or something, they don't usually get press conferences. It's just one guy, another guy. So you're going to court as a accused killer. You're going to fight your case as a private person. You can't do that once you get on the press conference. So I feel it's a violation of the Sixth Amendment, which is the right to a fair trial and the right to an impartial jury. Once you put that information out there, that's over. Also, I feel that our Fourth Amendment rights were violated because they got search and seizure warrants over the word of a concerned citizen,
right,
that came to the police and said, yeah, they're doing something illegal. I don't know. You go check it out. So they get search and seizure warrants. I think it was based on false information.
Who was the concerned citizen?
So the concerned citizen was never discovered.
It doesn't seem right either, because I'm based on the Constitution, I'm allowed to confront my
accusers.
Right. So
you're exactly right. I'm allowed to confront my accusers. So when I got my discovery evidence, that's where I saw, like, it was, by the time I got my discovery, it was too late. I had already did a deal with them to get the charge dismissed, and it wasn't a deal that I came up with. It was, they're like, okay, listen, you know, if you want to get it dismissed, you got to do this, you got to pay us. I'll get to that part. But once I did talk to them about that. They gave me the discovery 30 days later, or whenever it was. I'm looking through it. I don't see any concerned citizens. I'm looking for the concerned citizen. Like, who? Okay, did somebody?
How'd this start? Yeah.
How'd this start? Somebody go and say that they charged too much for a Fire Stick, or what was it? Because when I was reselling the Fire Sticks, I had great people. Like, most of them were older. There were some young people there. There's a mix of everybody, and they love me there. Like,
right.
They would bring me cake. They'd bring me just stuff, you know, because I helped them cut their bill of hundreds of dollars. And these people they have medicine. They have bills to pay. Like, they're getting killed just to watch 1 or 2 channels, but they have to pay for 500 of them.
Right.
So I was very popular there. They love me for that. So I'm like, what happened here? I checked the discovery. There's no concerned citizen, like was put on TV. The only thing that I found was that there was a person that went to law enforcement and said, this is, instead of what was said on TV that was, oh, they're doing something wrong, and said, go check it out. It's a little more detailed than that. This person went to the sheriff's office or whatever and said, hey, vendors at this International Market World are selling access to TV without written express authorization of the cable communications provider, blah, blah. I mean, perfect to the law. Just look what the law says.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
We need to talk to that guy.
I think he was a lawyer.
Yeah,
you know, the guy knows the law.
Or maybe just somebody that doesn't exist at all. You know?
Yeah, that's right. That's very, very likely. So in the book, I talk about that part, but specifically, they did mention his name, and it turns out he actually worked for a cable company.
Oh, okay. So somebody...
So I don't know if they don't say that he's the concerned citizen, but they say that citizen said this, and in my discovery says this guy said, you know, it kind of ties together. This guy said something similar. So that's what turned out in the whole case is it wasn't just, hey, these guys are selling free TV. It's the cable company is writing statements, going on record, making recorded statements. Yeah, sure enough, that's what got them the arrest and search warrants. The fact that somebody from the cable company came down and said, yep, hey, what they're doing is illegal. This is, you know, et cetera. And with that, they took us to jail from there.
So they didn't look up the specific laws or anything? They didn't?
Right. The judge, I guess, didn't, because you have to go to a judge, right? Like, to get a search warrant and then an arrest warrant, you have to have probable cause. And nobody looked at it. Nobody looked at it. They just took this guy's word.
Well, then they sent down people to buy from you.
Correct.
To prove that you were selling them, which I was.
Correct.
But what I'm selling isn't illegal.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that's what I think, that's who the concerned citizen may have been. With that information, I was already, you know, sort of wrapping up with the law. So I wasn't able to really use it.
What are you saying wrapping up? Like, was your lawyer talking to them? Like, what's...
So my lawyer was talking to them. My lawyer went to court for me so I could continue working every day. I stopped going to the flea market. I was just going on the weekends, and I worked my regular 9 to 5, you know, 50, 60 hours at work, Monday through Friday. So she was going to court for me. I'd call her when she gets back from court and see what happened. Oh, no, we're just talking. You know, she goes to my arraignment, et cetera, and it keeps going from there. I got in contact with people from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which is an internet group that watches these kind of situations and helps you out pro bono and the whole thing. And they were willing to help, but they needed my lawyer to say it's okay, like for them to come in and work together. My lawyer wasn't really with that. So she comes to me one day, the lawyer, with a deal. And she goes, hey, so got great news for you, Lewis. Remember that whole felony thing? Forget about it. We'll get you a misdemeanor or whatever, however she said it. She's like, okay, so if you're willing to take this misdemeanor of attempted fraud of cable provider thing, Florida law, then you're good. You'll take that. You won't do jail, essentially. You won't do jail, but you're going to shitload of community service, probation, whatever.
Okay.
If you take that, then at least you don't have to lose everything. So I tell her, yeah, but I'm going to lose my job. Like, I have to beat this case, because if I go with a misdemeanor, they told me specifically, like, you're under investigation. You're not just like back to normal. You have to beat this, or you have to get it dismissed, or you're going to lose your job. So I told her, no, it's that. And it's also the principle. Like, I know I want to take it to trial. I'm still working on getting the money for trial. Don't have it, but I want to. I don't want to take a deal. She's like, you sure? Are you sure? You know, because I got to give an answer to the DA by today, blah, blah, blah. I tell her no. And she goes and tells them that I'm not going to take that deal.
What about the guy at work that told you to, no matter what, if you're innocent, to fight it? Why don't you just go to him and say, you know what, that's a great idea, and I'm so glad you said I'm sticking with it. I need to borrow $10,000.
No doubt.
No doubt. I want to stand on my principles. I want you to stand on yours. Do you have a credit card available? You know, I mean, that seems only fair. Following your advice, Rick, or whatever his name was.
Definitely. I mean, that would have been good. Yeah. That would have been good, man. You
need me on your side. That's what you should have called me. I said, called Rick. It's his idea is not to take the felony or not to take the misdemeanor. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but that would have been great. That would have helped. But during that time, you know, I was just going back and forth with the lawyer. The whole term jailbroken, right, doesn't apply to any Android devices. They're completely unlocked. It applies to an iPhone if you want to jailbreak to add stuff, and that's legal. Even if you jailbreak an iPhone, that's still legal. You're not doing anything illegal. If you jailbreak where it becomes illegal is if you jailbreak a gaming device, Xbox, PlayStation 5, and you're playing downloaded games that are pirated, that's been illegal forever, right? My thing is that the whole term of jailbreaking being in a gray area for streaming is fake. It's fake news. This is what they've been telling us for years. So we continue paying the hundreds of dollars a month for a cable. When in 2010, Sony and Apple tried to sue people for jailbreaking their phones, right? And they said, you're going to get sued, essentially. They're threatening to sue people.
Okay, well, that's not criminal. That's civil.
That's still civil. Yeah,
right.
It's still civil. But people took that to, I want to say if it was the Supreme Court. At some point, the Library of Congress got involved, maybe when it went to the Supreme Court, and said that jailbreaking an actual Apple device is completely legal. And since then, it's been legal. That's 2010. So even before that, the Android devices were completely legit. So it's my assumption that that's just a scare tactic used to get us to continue, not using new devices and continuously paying bills for this thing.
Right. There's nothing on the books that says this is illegal, but there's nothing on the books that say it's necessarily legal.
Correct.
You can find similar devices that it has already been determined that it's legal to whatever alter or allow them to have things downloaded. For Androids, it's open. For Apple, it's still open, although you do have to actually alter the programming to allow for downloads.
Right.
And for certain things that are completely locked off, like certain games, because you can make money on games, you can gain things, like you can do things like that. In certain games, you're not allowed to alter anything within the game or allow downloads or change it in any way.
Right.
And all of those have been determined, but there's no real determination at this point for Fire Sticks. But they keep using the term jailbreak.
Right.
And as a result of that, they're saying, well, if we call it something that sounds nefarious, then we can make it appear that it's illegal. And that's essentially where you were at. And you said, I want to go to trial on this. And your lawyer, of course, is saying, you gave me $3,000.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to trial for $3,000. So she's wanting some money. And even then, it doesn't sound like her heart's in it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably had a better attorney for you.
Yeah, no, for sure I would.
But yeah, where his heart's into everything, he's probably got to go under eventually. The ones that are really passionate and will fight for you, they claim bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Because passion doesn't pay. But yeah, so you're trying to put it together. You're trying to go to her and explain the whole thing. She's trying to get you to take a misdemeanor.
Right.
She's trying to get you to go away. I need you to go away.
Correct.
At this point. So I'm sure she's a wonderful person.
Me too.
But
nothing against her.
Yeah, but she's not passionate about the law, or this case at least. So what? So you can't figure it. You're having a hard time just finding. There's nothing rock solid out there.
There's nothing rock solid out there. There is the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which helps people pro bono or that kind of thing. But,
and what are they saying? Are they saying that this is perfectly legal?
Yes,
but they don't actually have case law to prove it, right? So they don't have a case that went through that where a judge said this is legal, right? So they don't have that. They're saying it's legal, but they don't have case law.
Right. They don't have case law. No one's ever been arrested in the United States of America, as far as I'm aware, for this. So there's nothing to reference. There's people that have been sued. Like if you go back to Napster, do you remember the Napster days in probably early 2010 or earlier than that, 2000s, 99?
Right.
So during that time, they were same thing, except it was for music and suing people for downloading on Napster and Kazaa and these kind of places. And similar to the reason I bring up Napster is because it ties to this. Similar to the Napster days, they were going after what they call major violators, right? People that were downloading a bunch of music or whatever. So,
but you were downloading stuff.
You were downloading stuff. Right. So yeah, that's harder.
You have a physical copy. You're just giving them access to something that's already available.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you're downloading stuff there, so that's harder to fight. But even then, they can only sue them. There was no like criminal case law. There's nothing they could reference.
Right.
So they were suing people back then for being major violators. But as an aside, a lot of them were kids, seniors. Like I talk about it in the book. There's a 12-year-old girl that was called the first person to get sued. Her mom opens the door. There's a guy giving her paperwork. Hey, your daughter's being sued by the record industry of America for this many thousands because her computer was up and it was being uploaded. Music was being uploaded. And there's other people like seniors who were called, by news reporters back then. Hey, how's it feel to be a major violator? So this kind of thing, the way I see it is the music industry did it then. The movie industry has done that too. Every 5 years or so, they'll push some kind of big campaign. Hey, we're going to get the worst of the worst. And every time it's seniors, it's, people that are normal Americans. These aren't, what about all the other groups that are actually doing this as, a business, selling it, these other, actual criminal groups? They don't ever go after them, but there is no criminal thing to tie to it. So my lawyer, I don't know if there was nothing. It was hard for her too, so I get it. Anyways, I contacted the Electronic Frontier Foundation, quickly told them, hey, here's some links. Here's the news, here's this, this is what's happening. I'm looking for anybody that knows like what to do here. They did eventually respond. It was the holiday season, so it took a while. They responded, hey, we're so sorry for what's happening. But yeah, this is completely wrong. We're willing to help, but your lawyer has to accept it because, you've already got representation. So that didn't really help, but at least it gave me a little bit of hope that, hey, yeah, this is wrong. This is not just me thinking that, I read case law before, knew fire sticks were completely legal. Mm-hmm. This was other people saying the same thing that do this for a living. So eventually the case did get dismissed. So
how?
So she came to me with that deal about the misdemeanor. I said, no. A couple weeks later, she calls, and I'm at work with one of my truck drivers. She calls, I pick up, and I hear that's her. I leave work. I'm like, hey, I gotta go take a lunch break now. So I talk to her on the phone, and she goes, hey, all right, Lewis, that was a good call. So I got a better thing going on now. So if you're willing to pay them for the money they spent investigating you for those 3 months. If you're willing to pay that back and do some community service, then they'd be willing to dismiss the charges. And I'm like, so no.
Do I have to pay the money? Do you have to pay the money up front?
Up front.
I was going to say, dismiss the charges and I'll send you a check.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, they were like, hey, what
I got to mow Grady Judd's yard? You got to come to the police station. You have to mow pulp. Yeah, exactly. You have to mow the sheriff's station yard. So what?
Yeah, I mean, it's random. I don't know if this has ever happened either. Because it's like, yeah, just pay us back
How much was it? What are they saying?
It wasn't nothing crazy, but it was up to, I think I paid $600 for, you know, to me, that was a huge amount, especially back in 2020. So it was maybe $600 or something like that. And it was for each time they came out for the cameras and the hours, because this didn't just involve one guy or two guys. These were detectives from multiple divisions within the sheriff's department. So there was Homeland, like a guy from Homeland, a guy from Vice, a guy from Narcotics, you know, a guy from these random, you know, whatever divisions.
Did you call the other people and say, let's all pitch in $150. We got this done. We're done. I do it right now. Yeah. Is the 88-year-old guy still alive? Because we got to get the money out of him immediately. Yeah. He's going to get lucky and get out of this.
Yeah. I think he's still around. I haven't, the thing is, I don't know what happened to them to a big extent, because I left the market. I did go back one more time and talk to whoever was there. The 88-year-old guy was one. And I'm like, hey, man, listen, what's happening is bullshit. Like, you know, don't just take a deal. Don't, you know, and he didn't want to talk.
No,
he didn't want to talk. He's like, oh, man, that's okay, you know, whatever. And I end up leaving. Okay, that's cool. It's fair.
Right.
He thinks I'm wearing a wire. Right. Because we've been spun around and we don't know who's wearing a wire, who's got video cameras. So, and then I went to see the older lady too, and she was still there. Her story, I think, was the worst out of this whole thing.
They're gangsters, bro. Like, they stuck with it. You bowed out immediately.
They stuck with it.
They were like, I'm selling some candles. Fuck Grady Judd.
They went at it.
That fucking Saturday.
They stuck with it. They ain't scared. They ain't backing down. They were there the next day, flipping antennas or whatever else they got. So they were doing their thing.
What happened with her?
So the lady, she was there. What I found out was that she didn't just get bailed out of jail. Nobody could bail her out. She didn't have family to bail her out. And this happened during Christmas. So she was in there from December 20th through Christmas. And I want to say it was like another week. So it's like 2 weeks total for an elderly lady.
Oh, Grady Judd's a dick.
In the Polk County Jail, which is not, Polk County Jail is not no cakewalk. I mean, it's...
No, I have a hard time believing that Grady Judd runs a nice, clean establishment that he's kind and polite to everybody, every inmate. I'm pretty sure it's hard. He's hard on these
It's
motherfuckers.
a little hardcore. You only get water. There's only water for everybody. There's no juice. There's no nothing. It's only water. The food is really nasty. And I know this from before the Fire Stick thing, when I had to go in there for a little bit back in my 20s. And it was just nothing but nasty food and water. But anyway, she was in there for all, and there's dangerous people in jail. You know, this is county jail. It's not prison. It's county jail. You got people like coming down from meth, people withdrawing, people just, you know, acting crazy or whatever. So I found out she was in there during that time. That made me even more mad about this whole thing. The other lady, I'm not sure what happened to her, if she's still there, but I'm pretty sure she is. I didn't go back to the flea market after that first initial visit after getting out of jail. So I was done. I had a regular 9 to 5. So I had something to fall back on. They didn't. This is their bread and butter. You shut them down, you're shutting down their opportunity to eat, to buy medicine, to the whole thing. So I'm not sure what how they're doing today, but I would assume they're going to see this eventually somewhere. And hopefully, you know, makes them feel good that somebody's speaking up for them, because I could have said nothing. This happened in 2020. This is the second time I'm speaking about it in public. I wanted it to go away. I just try to continue living life, but it keeps coming up. So after this whole thing went down and it sort of went away legally, my reputation was ruined at work for sure. So I ended up leaving that job after a couple months. Like, there was a promotion that came up that it was mine. I'd been there 6 years before this happened.
Right.
Work coming in every day. I was like working my way up. After that, I couldn't get an interview for like any position moving up. So I knew that was over. I left that job, started a new job as a manager somewhere at another logistics company. And it took maybe 30 days before somebody's like, oh shit, man. Yeah. Damn, Lewis, that's you. You're the guy from the Fire Stick thing. And that was, you know, that. So it kept coming up.
Right.
So I let that go. All right, whatever. And I stayed at that second job for like another year and almost 2 years. But right there, I knew that, okay, I can't stay here forever because this is going to get out. And it did get out. They didn't fire me or nothing. People support it.
Yeah.
Most of everybody's, hey, man, yeah, this, whatever. They support because they know, you know, the whole story. But it just kept coming up. So I left to a third job that I'm at now. And it's only a matter of time before it comes up again, because it's still everywhere. It's still on YouTube, it's on Google. So that's the reason I'm telling this story now, because I didn't have to. I could just continue my life and, you know, not talk about it. But I wrote this book particularly to tell this story, not just mine, but also the...
Where's the book?
Babe, can you...
I was going to say, do you have a copy of the book?
Yes. So that's the version before it got published. So you see now for resale.
But I have a bunch of these.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, with
your books?
No, I'm saying with my books with a, you know, not released for sale or whatever. It is. So you were saying, so I wrote the, you know, go ahead.
So I wrote this book after years of trying to get away from this story and being owned by it. Like, I'm now trying to own my own story and talk about this. So
you know that one? Yeah. Okay.
So I wrote this book to, you know, give our side. I didn't get any input from the other vendors because they, you know, I didn't go back to the flea market, but they were affected worse than I was. We do have kids at home, so we had bills still to pay. So, so we were also affected. But yeah, so that's why I wrote the book. I could have been quiet and gone away, but I wanted to definitely get it out there for several reasons. One of the reasons is the press conference thing. I would love to see that go away,
right?
If at all possible, because people.
Oh, to have them take it down, or you
have them take down mines and no longer do press conferences. Well, still do press conference. Don't give prejudicial statements. Don't trash people on the press conference. Give them their chance to have a fair trial.
Right.
And on the going back to the constitutional thing, if you can't get a fair trial, then your constitution doesn't apply to you.
Right.
You know, it just doesn't.
It's a violation of the constitutional
It's a violation,
rights, right.
And they've been sued. You know, but just a year, not even a year. It's the same year of mines. Guy sued the sheriff's department, and they had to pay him $100,000 for pain and suffering,
right,
for being on a press conference and then later being found not guilty, or later they dismissed it or whatever. And he sued. And it's happened a lot. It's not just one lawsuit. During my research for this book, I found several people that had done lawsuits. I found lawyers out of Tampa who publicly put statements out, you know, whether they're defending somebody that got arrested in Polk County, or they're just saying in general, hey, your use of press conferences is violating this right, that right. You know, it's got to stop. You can't just give any statement that you want to, you know, for clout or whatever.
Right. As entertaining as they are.
They're very entertaining.
Right. Did you do an Audible version?
So I'm working on that now. I have my paperback version, and then I have it on ebook too, which is available now. It's available at Apple, Google, Kindle, Amazon, everywhere you can get books. And then the audio version should be available by the time this interview drops.
Yeah, the Audible, like I probably, you know, I probably 30% of my book sales are on Audible.
Really?
Yeah, because people just don't, like, you know, a lot of people don't read.
Yeah.
So they don't want to buy, you know, they don't want to buy the book, but they'll buy Audible.
For sure. Yeah. You can just listen to it at work or on the way to work. And
are you doing it?
I'm doing it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I set up a little studio in the closet, and I'm doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Did you feel like so what happened? Wait a minute. So what happened? Basically, you took the deal. So you did take the deal.
So yeah. So she gives me this breakdown of this deal. Pay us. It'll go away. So yeah, at that point, I have a decision to make. Either I find $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever it is going to be to start trial from somewhere, which it was impossible. We didn't have those options, or I push. I take this deal.
Right.
That's like there's no other option. You got the money ready, or you're going to take this deal.
Right.
Right. So I said, okay, I agreed. Let's go ahead and do that. I found some money to pay them. And then they had some community service hours that you can buy it out also. Bought that out for another $200 or whatever it was. And it just gets dismissed. Goes away. And then they hope nobody else talks about it.
Right.
Right. Because they knew they were wrong. This is why they offered me this deal.
Right.
Which they usually maybe would offer to somebody with no criminal history. I don't have a big criminal history, but I did have some stuff back in the day. And usually they would say, you know what? No, you had your chance.
Right.
You know, like Grady says during the press conference, when he's talking about us, he's like, well, that guy, he's had a couple bites of the apple, so he might not have it so easy.
Right.
So, but then when it comes down to it, I have it very easy, and they just, you know, dismiss it. To me, it's almost like they wanted this thing to go away, because one of the press conferences, the second one where somebody says, hey, the news says these aren't illegal. We're getting calls and, you know, emails. That got taken down by the media team.
That's the one they took down.
Yeah, but they don't take down the original one. You know, it's just weird. That one you can't find on YouTube anywhere now. So
and it was convenient.
Yeah, it's convenient, and the media is questioning something, right? It's like, oh, can I ask one question about that thing? You know, and then all of a sudden that you can't find that video anymore.
Right.
So that's strange. I'd love people to go to my website. It's tech-pirate.com. So tech, TECH, then the dash, pirate.com. There you can find the book. I have my own, you know, line of shirts, all type of merch on there, you know, and basically just trying to recoup what I lost during this time for no reason. I mean, it's still going on now. I'm still losing, you know, jobs here and there, and I'm trying to recoup from this. So that's why I have that on my website.
Well, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, but I didn't get a chance to say that.
No,
thank you so much for having me. You've been excellent. You know, I was a fan before. Now I'm a bigger fan, but I really appreciate you giving me this opportunity because this is new. I haven't talked about this, you know, besides the first time recently in public. So it feels good to start getting this shit off my chest and, you know, moving forward and trying to take control of this story and no longer having it run my life. Right. So I want to be able to run it. So I appreciate that.
No problem. All right. I appreciate it. So hold on. Let me. All right. What? Stop. God, bro, don't. Mary, I don't know if you married a mean woman, but
I mean, my wife's Dominican.
I mean, bro, just angry, just always poking, making fun of me. It's just, you know, just mean spirited, just a mean spirited person. All right. Hey, thank you guys for watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Also, please share the video. That really helps with the algorithm. Please consider joining our Patreon. It's like $10 a month. There's Patreon exclusive content on the channel. Also, I answer all comments on Patreon. So it's only $10 a month. It really does help Colby and I make these videos. We really appreciate it. Also, we're going to leave in the description box, we're leaving the Amazon link. We're going to leave the link to the website, to the Tech Pirate website. Also, hopefully there will be an Audible book on the book by the time this comes out. Really do appreciate you guys watching. Thank you very much. See ya.